welcome my dear friends Gemma and her husband Tom that are here from Lawrence. You know, on our webpage, I use this quote. It's really pretty. I don't know if you all saw it. It looks like this. It's beautiful colors. And it says, love is not an emotion, it's your very existence. And that's kind of the whole idea of Sufism. It's the path of love. But let me tell you some in my words, some in the words of Hazrat Inayat Khan. Hazrat is a distinction that we give to people that have brought great gifts of spirituality to the world. In the Sufi path, that is, we bring this name in to begin their name. It's a respect to them for all that they've brought. And Inayat Khan brought the message of Sufism, which was a more contemporary message of Sufism, to the West in 1910. And his words to me are so clear. It was something that spoke to my heart when I met it. I was raised a Catholic. I'm still a practicing Catholic. I've studied Buddhism, you know that. I think I've been in the Himalayas at the monastery, at my teacher's monastery, studying deeply Tibetan Buddhism. And so the wonderful thing about this path is, like a student of mine, she came into my office when I was at the college and I had all these different sort of religious things around. And she goes, well, what are you? And I said, everything. She goes, everything? How's that possible? I said, I think you don't have to choose. You can draw from all paths. For some, it's very good to just stay focused on one path, but others of us see the unity of that. And in fact, Inayat Khan wrote about the unity of religious ideals. So I brought in this quote because, again, it's like the quote that I just shared. And this is a quote by Inayat Khan. God is love. 3 words which opens up an unending realm for the thinker or the aspirant or the student who desires to probe the depths of the secret of life. Now, I think of this funny story. Some of you may know Ram Dass. He studied with an Indian teacher called Baba Neem Karoli in Kanji in India. So he'd go there and, you know, of course, he was also a professor and at Harvard, et cetera, but he was on this spiritual path. And Baba Neem Karoli would always tell, it was kind of his mantra, love everyone, serve everyone. Well, Ram Dass had an issue with this because, by God, he didn't feel like he loved everyone. In fact, he thought some people were just downright irritating. So he went to Baba and he said, Baba, I just don't love anyone. And Baba, with a twinkle in his eye, said, Ram Dass, love everyone, serve everyone. This was his mantra. So what do we mean by love? Do we mean attachment? Do we mean sentimentality? No, it's something more than that. So now I'm going to go to Inayat Khan's words. Sufism, simply put, is a mystical path that is experienced in life through the vehicle of love. Not a sentimental love, but a kind of love expressed in the New Testament. I like bringing that in, the Holy Bible. And we're told about the Holy Spirit and the fruits of the Holy Spirit, which are in us, and it just blows my mind. These first fruits of eternal glory are already in us, we're told. And there are 12 of the fruits of glory, and they're charity, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, generosity, gentleness, faithfulness, modesty, self-control, and chastity. Well, these are all, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, they're all variations of love. And, you know, it's probably been a year or more now. I was talking with someone that in my group of friends from the Tibetan Buddhist community. She's an American, and she was in a 4-year retreat in France. She had gone there. She's part of that Padmaka. Can you not hear me? What's going on? Okay. Make sure you're muted, everyone. Like I used to tell my students at college, we can all sing together, but we can't talk together. So try not to interrupt. Thank you. So I lost my train of thought. But anyway, these are all expressions of love. And these fruits, again, we'll talk about later. Regarding Sufism, and you've often asked me, can I describe Sufism? I'm going to do my best with Inayat Khan's words, but you know, it's something that's evolving and to be discovered by each individual. He says, if anyone asks you what is Sufism, what religion is it, your answer may be, Sufism is the religion of the heart, the religion in which the most important thing is to seek God in the heart of every person. And I think we could also include all of nature, because it's all part of the divine presence that's manifest to us. But to seek, that in the heart of each human being, and there's an elaboration here. The first way to recognize God in every person is to care for every person with whom we come in contact through our thoughts, our speech, and our actions. The human personality is very delicate, and we can easily jar that. The more living the heart, so the more open your heart is, and the more sympathetic the heart is. So that goes for us, but also perhaps other people we're encountering. One speaks well of someone when you're face to face, but if one speaks well of someone when they're not in your presence, it's all the better. It actually means more. It's greater. One sympathizes with a person that is troubled that's before us, but can we do that at someone at a distance, or do we forget about them? Do we require that stimulation to feel that, or can we be mindful? And to do that, to sort of bring people in, I know some people have a prayer list of people that have asked to be prayed for. We call ourselves prayer warriors here. There's a group of women, most of them older than me, but we text each other, add this person to the list. I might not even know these people. They may be somebody that lived here a long time ago. But praying for them, it opens the heart. It makes us feel, it can stimulate compassion. Nothing makes us do anything. This is all grace of God. So in that way, I guess God makes us do things. But it helps us to be open our heart wider and wider to encompass others besides someone that is just before us. So that's that's the second way, is to practice when someone's present and when someone's at a distance. So I'm going to go back because I think I've missed something. So the first way to recognize God is in every person. I already said that. And to care for every person whom we're in contact with. The person whose heart is not sympathetic is without feeling. Their heart is not living. In that case, the divine spirit is buried in the heart. Now, Naikan doesn't say it's not there, but he says it's buried in the heart. So we have to uncover it. And I believe that our practices help us do that. The next way of practicing the religion of the heart is to think of the feelings of a person that we're with at a moment. And I just talked about that. I had jumped ahead. So do we need the stimulus of someone just being there in the moment? Or do we need to or can we expand? Suri, you have your hand up. Did you have a question? Okay, I'll put that down. It's nice to have all these little things to see if you can keep your concentration. Okay. So being able to feel really humanity. You don't have to go very far. Turn your TV on and watch the news. There's a lot there that we can pray for. The third way of realizing the Sufi principle is to recognize that one's own feelings are the feelings of God, that those are given to us in a kind of grace. And to realize that every impulse that arises in one's heart is a direction from God. Now, I think this is very special. This is kind of super esoteric, because everything that arises is a direction from God. I've had a challenging situation in my life with someone that I thought was a really good friend, and things have gone awry. That's not to say they won't come back, but that too is a direction of God. And my feelings that I'm wrestling with about this are a direction of God. And it's God's grace that's allowing me to have this struggle and conflict inside to work through something and to try to keep my heart open. And maybe you have those things as well in your life. I'm sure we all do. So realizing the love that love is the divine spark in one's heart, one blows on that spark. And this is the medium of breath. And we've talked about that before when I visited you. You know how important the breath is. It can cause us to expand by elongating the breath. We can direct the breath into a certain part of our body. It is used in Sufi absentee healing services to direct the breath on a vibration of a sacred sound towards that person that we are asked to pray for in healing. So the breath is a really important vehicle, and it's something, well, I think we often take that for granted. It's such a blessing to have. But realizing that love is the divine spark in one's heart, and then again blowing on that spark is important. From that, a flame may arise, and this illuminates our life's path. It's illuminating the direction God's putting us in. It's not all, rainbows and unicorns, as people say. It can sometimes be the school of hard knocks, but that's also a direction of God and is teaching us something. But that message is constantly coming from within. But we have so much noise out here, so much entertainment, so much things to keep our minds busy. But what happens if we sit and we listen? A few times I was asked to lead some practices to take people at Unity Village. They have those retreats in the summer. And it's like, can you lead some practices to take people into the silence? And people told me they were afraid. It was just a night. I mean, most of it they were going to be sleeping, but they were afraid to be silent with their own thoughts. But it's profound. Because over a period of time, this is also a practice of the Sufis, silent retreat, either in groups or individually for a certain length of time. And that helps you see that the thoughts at first maybe are very busy, but they start to smooth out, and you start to, it's almost like the heart machine in a hospital. It just gets slower and slower, and you can start to separate things. But to let the voice of God come through. We call it the spirit of guidance in Sufism. Sufism awakens in humanity a spirit to being part of a human family. And Buddhism also teaches us this, that when we look around, we say, that's a human being. They want the same things I do. They want comfort. They want food. They want shelter. They want love. These are things that all human beings, and I think animals and nature also, that we're stewards of, want in their lives. So seeing that we're not so different, that's another me over there, and trying to, this is a golden rule, right? Treat others as you wish to be treated. I think that's the golden rule. Someone can correct me later. But it teaches us that we are part of this humanity. And on this path, we frequently, some of us that choose to do that, take up the study of all the major world religions, and even the ones that aren't so major. But it's one of the schools within our Sufism. And by doing that, you start to see that things are more interconnected, or an evolution of a previous religion. And that is so helpful because it helps one develop tolerance and see that we are not so different. Religions tend to separate themselves, but when I was a little girl, I was very curious about church. I don't know if I've told you this story. Most kids don't want to go to church. You can't hardly drag them, but I wanted to go to church. And I had friends that were Mormons and Baptists and Presbyterians, which I guess is kind of Protestant. But I wanted to go to their churches with them. So I'd ask my mom, and there's kind of this thing, or it used to be, Vatican Council changed it, but it used to be really supposed to be practicing the one holy true religion and nothing else. But Mom was very open, and she figured no harm could come if I went to church. And then we had priests that were friends of the family that would come for dinner, and they'd ask me, well, what did you learn there? And I was very young. I'm not even sure I was in school, and I started school at 4, so I was pretty young. I would say, well, they pray different than us. but it's all going to the same place. There's just one God. I mean, I got that when I was really little. It didn't matter what words they were saying or how they were doing it. And I think you all, you're living that, right? I mean, that's what the premise of the Center for Universal Oneness is. So, yay. So, okay, so let me get back. Sufism teaches, well, and we also are, we have this idea of how can we be of service to others and how can we be useful, not just for ourselves, but, is there some way we can help others as well? And I think we can do this in very small ways. Wasn't it yesterday? That was on the envelope, Joe, when we gave at church, that famous quote of Mother Teresa, Saint now Mother Teresa, that I love. We may not do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And so a smile, is an invitation to someone, a kind look, opening the door for someone, asking if you can carry the groceries for someone, whatever. These are little ways that we can be of service and show people that we see them and love them. So Sufism teaches service and usefulness, which alone can make the world so fruitful and open up all kinds of connections. And this fruitfulness gives us a kind of satisfaction to the soul, because the soul needs that. Maria wants to enter. We're going to let her in. Okay. Hi, Maria. So Sufism teaches us that every kind of power lies in one thing, which we call by the simple name love. So now we're going to revisit. These are Anayat Khan's words, but you'll see that they're very much like the 12 fruits that were mentioned in the New Testament. Charity, generosity, kindness, affection, endurance, tolerance, and patience. Does anyone struggle with the last one? That's a big one. But God's trying to teach us all the time. When we're feeling impatient, God's there saying, try it again. So all these words are different aspects of love. Oh, that's what I was going to say at the very beginning. Here's the place for it. So I had a friend, she was a translator. She did pretty good with the Tibetan language. And so we had met, and she was translating. She was American. She was translating from Tibetan, even some of the esoteric languages of Tibet into English. And we spoke on Skype or Zoom, well, within the last year or so. And she was telling me that she was currently in France. She was in a 4-year retreat, and she was translating, because she's part of I think it's called the Padmaka. I'm looking over there. My husband's not behind me. He's ahead of me. This is a mirror. Anyway, she was translating this esoteric text into English, and she was saying that even into the Tibetan language, there are 400 ways to say love, but was very specific to this teaching. So finding the right word to use in that teaching was very important. And it's like that, everything we can see as love. And then Murshid is saying, or Anayat Khan is saying this here. So whatever is said about these words and these different names, it just means that God is love. And whatever name is given, all these names may be a different form of love, but every name is love. And it has a unique vibration to it. So we know how, if we think, how is charity different than tolerance? And how is kindness different than generosity? But they're all forms of love. It's all a way of extending ourselves beyond this limited boundary to connect with the world around us, other human beings, nature. Places have it. If you've traveled, especially, special places here too. Churches have this feeling, are we sensitive enough to feel it? In India, there are these places that you feel it. And if you ask, what happened in this place? You're told, a saint lived here on this corner and people came to visit them, but you feel that vibration. So this is what we're talking about, tuning in, not becoming schizophrenic, by the way, but becoming sensitive and understanding what that is and not being afraid of it. It's like that Bill Murray movie. Was it called The Razor's Edge? It can be like that. You have to decide if this esoteric path is for you, and that if you can keep clear, keep in this world and be a part of that world at the same time. Rabia Basra, a great Sufi saint, she would say, eating the bread of this world, but doing the work of that world. Or, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Can we keep that connection going? It's just different ends of a pole. So it's like that. So all the fruits of the Holy Spirit are indeed various forms of love as different manifestations which distinguish themselves for different purposes. And I tried to just illustrate that. Now the question comes, but how do we come to this depth of love and realization that God is love? And of course, if we have that divine spark in us, we are too. Well, we come to this realization through the development of what Hazrat Inayat Khan calls the inner life. He describes the development and the attainment of the inner life in 5 steps. I think I've gone over time, haven't I? I've gone over time. I'm so sorry. This was too much to cover. So, right? I mean, I was only supposed to be here 20 minutes and I've already been here 25. So I need to let you...
You need more time. You can take as much time as you'd like.
Well, I don't want to overstay my visit, but...
Well, say 10 more minutes. How about it?
Okay, so I'm going to go through this, and I think I can get through it fairly easily. I have to keep my commentary short. So the 5 steps are unlearning. We know that. It says in the Bible, be ye as little children. We have to find a way to empty ourselves. Because if we're full, there's nothing else that can go in. The other thing that Inayat Khan suggests is to find a spiritual guide, a mentor, a friend that maybe is a little farther along on the path that we have a sympathetic vibration to, that we can feel open to learning. And Inayat Khan describes this relationship in this way. A spiritual guide performs the role of Cupid, again, bringing in love, to bring the seeking soul closer to God. So that's so important, this aspect of love. And then receiving knowledge of the inner world. And this is different, of course, than gaining knowledge of the outer world. And it is beyond logic and reason. If we put logic and reason in there, we'll never feel or experience any magic. We'll never feel the blessings in the way that they're intended. It defies logic and reason, but it is nonetheless. So knowledge of the inner world ripens and emerges through openness and faith, and that the Buddhists say, clear mind, don't know. Open. So loving life, which is part of the title. Go back. Another aspect is meditation, and Inayat Khan recommends for us a fixed time of day and a regular practice, which we very much try to do. And the next step after that is to how do we take meditation outside of those moments and kind of bring it into everyday existence or what we've learned or realized. And that's what's called right meditation. There's lots of opportunities. When you're stuck in traffic, I start praying or doing my breath practices. I try to look around me and think, all these other people are also stuck in the luxury of being retired, as I'm usually not in a hurry, but they may be need to get to work or something that's more important. So I just use it as a time to pray. I mean, a grocery store line when it's long, just breathe. Change of vibration. It's bringing meditation into everyday life. And then loving life is the fifth aspect of the spiritual path. And loving everyday life, seeing value in that, not trying to, it's integrating our spirituality into our everyday life. And there's, in Sufism, and these are Inayat Khan's words, there are no strict morals that a spiritual guide enforces upon a person. For that work has been given to outward religions. And if you feel those and you like to live by those codes, that's great. I think they're there for a reason. The essence of morals practiced by people treading the spiritual path are, first, to avoid hurting another person. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but you know what? I had something happen the other day where a woman was so short with me, and we have these seasonal people, and I hadn't seen her in a long time. There was someone standing with me, and when they left, he's like, my God. I mean, it was really just kind of hateful, and I thought, whoa. And so, but she thought about it. It troubled her probably more than it did me. She came right up to me the next time, arms wide open. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that. It was this and that was going on. So it's good. And so those things, to not, even if we do hurt someone, then to try to go back and say, I'm sorry. That's a good thing. The second moral principle is to avoid allowing ourselves to be affected by the jarring circumstances around us. It happens. How do we cope with that? The third moral principle is to keep our balance in all situations which upset the tranquility of the mind. So how do we do that? The breath. Think of something that inspires us. The fourth principle is love. Love those who deserve our love, or we think we deserve our love, and forgive those who we think are undeserving. And the fifth moral principle is detachment. And this is not meant to be kind of I don't care. It's meant to be being able to rise above the circumstances and continue on the journey to the goal. And of course, the goal is union with God, that God realization. And remembering that the shrine of God is in the heart of every person. So, succinctly put, this gets to the words of the talk. Love is the divine spark placed in our heart. Blowing upon the divine spark, a flame arises, illuminating the path of our life. And in this awareness, we live a life that's full of love and respect for others. And ourselves, too, is important. A life of harmony and balance and attentiveness, and what really matters, to have a full, rich inner and outer life. Now, I was going to lead a meditation, but do we just go to the music?
Please do your meditation.
Are you
Please do your
sure?
meditation.
Okay, well,
Yes, that's
you're
fine.
snowed and iced in, so I've got a captive audience. Okay, so I'd like for us to just, if you feel comfortable just with hooded eyes looking down, if you practice meditation that way, but if not, if you could just close your eyes and focus on your heart. And remember, as was taught, there's this divine spark there. That is in every human being. It may be covered up, but we know if you're here, you have that and you know that it's there. And so, again, using the vehicle of the breath, sort of see yourself inside the shrine of your own heart. And for everyone, that will take a different form. But with the medium of the breath, gently enter that space, find that little glowing ember, and begin to gently blow on it. We're not going to create a raging fire, but something that just warms us in the most beautiful way, and also something that makes us feel alive and lit up. And so just allow the light to grow and let it be gentle. And it can help. You always think of the saints that are glowing. That's because their inner light is shining out. So let your hot halo glow, and let your body and even the energy extending beyond your body just be filled with light. And let that light reach all the places that need attention and love and healing. And then, if you wish, you could invite people you love into that space with you, and also people that perhaps have inspired you along your path. And even maybe your heart space is in nature, and so feeling that surrounding comfort of nature. And just keep breathing into this space. And then what's also important is to see if we can bring a situation or person that maybe we're finding difficult at this time into that space. just let the light and the love from your heart touch theirs. Nothing else needs to be done, but just be open to that. And in this situation, it's important, especially because this practice is used to bring a situation or a relationship into our heart space, to try to gain clarity, to listen to the spirit of guidance. We don't need to change anything. Maybe that is only arising as that message from God to teach us something. So if we had longer, we could sit with that. You can use this for yourself and see if something awakens in you. And just always remember that this heart space is there. And for me, sometimes there's just a wall. It's like nothing comes, but I just let that heart space be there and that situation continue to be there, and be mindful to it, because sometimes it's trying to teach me patience. And so just let that be and see that as a gift of God. And use this, as Anayat Khan said, direction of God. Those were his words. But listen, become still and listen within. Take the time to realize that the inner life is so beautiful and can have an astounding influence on our every day-to-day living life. Love, life, live. And then if you could slowly just come back to your room and open your eyes. And I don't know, felt good. Feel very tender now. So, I'm a crybaby. Anyway, I think, Kyle, there's a music that I've selected. Most of you are going to know this. This is called What the World Needs Now, with the lyrics, and I think they'll go over the video, and written by Burt Bacharach. And so you'll remember this, but it's beautiful. And let these images fill you, and try to let that love flow